I am a writer of middle grade, and I also write across a lot of age ranges and genres for kids. But my first book that is being published is Aftermath, which is a middle grade novel. I live in California with my husband and 2 kids. I'm a recent transplant to California, though, longtime New Yorker. So that's been a recent good adjustment to California life. I also write about organic, sustainable, and eco-friendly beauty and self-care products for magazines and websites. So that's one of my other passions. And I've written for all sorts of websites, personal essays, sitcoms, parenting columns, you name it. I've probably done some of the writing. So I'm just excited to be here with my first book and thrilled to finally really join the Kidlit community.
We are going to hopefully talk about all of those things because I'm very excited about all of the different types of writing that you've done. And I know you were also a child actress, child star, whatever the term is.
Star might be more generous than necessary, but sure, let's go with child actor.
And you were in, I saw 2 short films credited to you. Were you in, how many projects were you involved in, and how long were you a child actress?
I started acting when I was 5, and I worked up until about when I turned 30. So I worked for about 25 years in acting. I started out doing mainly musical theater, regional theater, summer stock, that kind of stuff. Regional mostly in the Baltimore, Washington area, which is where I grew up. I did a lot of commercials and industrials, again, mostly local Baltimore area. My parents tried really hard to keep me having somewhat of a normal childhood. So I did not go to New York or LA at that point, and really worked mostly locally and with the theater community in Baltimore and Washington, which is an amazing group of people. I feel really lucky to have had such a positive and fascinating experience as a child. I moved to New York after college, and that's when I started doing television and film. I had a small recurring role on a soap opera, One Life to Live, and I did some other soap opera work on Days of Our Lives, and I did some other small parts on soap operas. I did a lot of the soap operas for a while, other TV stuff, some theater, some children's theater, kind of all over the place, and hit that 25-year mark and decided that I was really ready to visit a different area of my creativity. I'd always wanted to be a writer. That was something sort of in the back of my mind and in my back pocket. And towards the end of my acting career, those 2 things kind of overlapped, and it was a reminder to me that writing was something I really, really wanted to do. And it was a convenient lifetime for me. It was around the time when my husband and I were thinking about having kids, and being a writer is easier for me to juggle with also being a mom than the acting career was. Obviously, people make it work in all sorts of different ways, but for us, this is what seemed to make the most sense. So it all kind of came together nicely timing-wise, too.
When's the first time you thought to yourself, I think I'd like to be a writer someday?
I mean, before I even remember consciously thinking of it, it was something that was so very much ingrained in me because my dad is a writer and my grandfather was a writer. And so it felt very logical and obvious to me that it was something that I could do. You know, there's that that thing about representation. If you can see it, you can be it. And I'm very lucky that the representation of working writers was very clear in my life. So it didn't feel at all like a big reach or controversy. I mean, of course, becoming a published writer in, you know, particular genres is, you know, there are different kinds of ways to be a writer, and certainly some are harder to achieve than others. But in general, the concept of becoming a writer felt very attainable and downright normal to me because it was, you know, the family business, for lack of a better phrase.
So nobody said to you, you're going to star, that there's no way that could ever work out?
No, they only said that to me about being an actor. I think for my family, becoming a writer after having been an actor, felt downright normal, and the hours are better. Another thing I used to do as an actor when I lived in New York is I was one of the sort of regular recurring background actors on Saturday Night Live. So anytime they needed like a group of people in the background, I was one of the people they would call, but which was super cool. And I learned so much, and that's why I loved that job. But it did involve going to work at, like 5 p.m. on Thursday and resurfacing sometime in the early hours of Sunday. So in terms of, stability and normalcy, I think everybody thought that writing felt very normal compared to trying to be an actor in New York.
That had to be a lot of fun when you were in your early 20s, though.
Super fun, incredible experiences, a lot of sitting around. And honestly, what I used to do, this was before smartphones, and I used to just bring books with me and made my way through the New York Public Library YA section while I was sitting backstage at Saturday Night Live or at One Life to Live or anywhere else. Being an actor involves a ton of waiting. And it's the same thing I used to do as a kid when I was in musicals, and you'd inevitably have downtime backstage, and I would just read. I always had a book with me, and I think those two things are so commingled in my mind. It was not a big leap to me from storytelling in one way and reading to then storytelling in another way and writing.
So, and the esteemed audience has heard me harp on this before because I'm so convinced that every writer should take at least one acting class.
Oh.
What aspects of your acting career have you been able to bring to your creating of characters in fiction writing?
It's a wonderful question. And I'd say the number one thing is adaptability and thinking quickly on your feet. Well, and I'm gonna expand that. I'm gonna come back to that. The other thing is recognizing all members of the team and sort of the appreciation for the more behind the scenes people, because I think that's something that you really appreciate a ton early on in theater. And I think a lot of writers think of writing as more of a solo endeavor and don't understand the value of or the importance of all of the behind the scenes team members as a writer, whether it's, your agent, your editor, the production manager, the designer, the typesetter, there are just a million jobs that make a book what it is. And my background as an actor definitely prepared me for the importance of and the reverence towards that entire cast of characters. But back to my first answer there about adaptability. One of my favorite acting jobs that I had growing up from the ages of, I think 13 to 18, I was in a traveling troupe called the Young Colombians, with two really amazing directors, Toby Ornstein and Carol Graham-Lehan, who were both really amazing teachers and influences to me in terms of teaching me how to be a storyteller. And in this group, we performed all over the East Coast, and we did a show that was the history of America. And so we would perform everywhere from county fairs we performed at the White House for the Clinton Christmas party in, I want to say 1996, but I might have the year wrong. So, the White House, county fairs, and everything in between. When a governor got elected, we would sing at, in like Pennsylvania at the governor's victory party, or, things like that. So wide variety of occasions from fancy to casual. And so sometimes it would be a county fair and you'd get there and the stage was just kind of a big flat dirt area and some bales of hay. And our challenge was, you might get 10 minutes on stage to do a sound check. And so it was figuring out like, okay, how are we going to do our show in this particular environment? Or you get to the White House with no prep because of security. You're in a holding room and they let you go, and then you're out standing in a room and it's like, okay, go do your show. So, and again, everything in between. Sometimes, we did a ton of performances at nursing homes and children's centers, all ages, all types of audiences. And so there was just a ton of reading the room, figuring out what was going to work, what wasn't going to work, everything from physically of what we would have space for on the stage. And there would be a lot of like, okay, we're going to have to cut that dance number and just sing the song. It was a musical number review. So incredible training, 5 years of doing that. And also just getting used to working with tons of different people. It was obviously a rotating cast of people coming in and out depending on the day and the show and who was available and who had what conflicts. And so there was so much appreciation for working together and just making it work. And, you know, the old cliche, the show must go on. And the way that folds into my writing, you know, is the ability to just, you know, I like to say I never have writer's block because I don't believe in it. And of course, I have moments where I don't know what I want to write, or I feel completely lost or absolutely out of ideas and bereft. But because of my background in theater and the show having to go on, when I have a deadline or I have something that needs to get written, it's imbued in me this this ability to be like, okay, well, we gotta do something, and that has really helped me be a productive writer. And also to think on my feet if something's not working, to say, okay, let's try something else. Let's do this. So there's kind of a can-do attitude of creativity that I can't imagine working without.